The courtroom felt colder than usual that morning. Tom stood near the wooden table with his hands folded calmly in front of him. He wore a clean gray suit that looked older than it was. Pinned neatly to his chest was a small medal that caught the light when he moved. Tom had not planned to wear it at first. He woke up early that day and sat on the edge of his bed for a long time. The medal rested in a small box beside his wallet. It had been there for years without being touched. He remembered the faces of people whose names were carved into memory rather than stone. The medal was not about pride. It was about memory. It was about time that never came back. When Tom entered the courthouse, he felt eyes on him. Some people noticed the medal. Some did not. To Tom, it felt heavy even though it was light. The judge entered the room with practiced steps. Everyone stood. Everyone sat. The hearing began like any other. This case was about Tom losing his job after speaking up about unfair treatment. He had worked at the same place for over 20 years. He showed up early and left late. He believed in doing things the right way. When Tom spoke, his voice was steady. He answered questions clearly. He did not raise his tone. He did not argue. The judge listened at first without expression. Then his eyes settled on the medal. His gaze stayed there longer than needed. He leaned forward slightly. His voice cut through the room. "This is a courtroom," he said. "Remove that medal." The room froze for a second. A quiet sound moved through the benches. Tom did not react right away. He looked at the judge. Then he looked down at his chest. His fingers hovered near the pin. Tom felt something tighten inside him. Not anger. Not fear. Something deeper. He slowly unpinned the medal. He placed it carefully into his pocket. The metal touched his palm one last time. "I did not mean disrespect," Tom said quietly. The judge did not respond. He waved his hand and continued the hearing. But the room felt different now. People shifted in their seats. Some avoided looking at Tom. Some could not stop looking at him. In the back row, a woman named Lisa lowered her phone slowly. She had recorded only a short clip. She did not plan to. Her finger moved on instinct. The clip showed the judge. It showed Tom. It showed the order. The hearing ended soon after. Tom gathered his papers. He nodded politely and walked out. Outside the courthouse, the air felt warmer. Tom breathed deeply and adjusted his jacket. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it at first. Then it buzzed again. And again. By the time he reached his car, he checked the screen. Messages filled the display. Calls he did not recognize appeared one after another. Tom drove home slowly. Traffic lights changed around him. He barely noticed. At home, he placed his keys on the table. He sat down without turning on the lights. The house was quiet. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Mark. "Did something happen today?" Mark asked. Tom paused before answering. "The judge asked me to remove my medal," Tom said. There was silence on the other end. "Are you serious?" Mark asked. Tom confirmed it calmly. Mark sounded angry. "You should see the news," Mark said. Tom turned on the television. A local channel showed the courthouse image. The clip was already playing. The anchor spoke carefully. A veteran ordered to remove his medal in court. Tom turned off the screen. He sat back in his chair. He did not feel proud. He did not feel ashamed. He felt tired. Memories returned slowly. Long days. Long nights. Moments of fear and moments of quiet strength. He remembered promises made to himself. To act with dignity. To stay calm even when treated unfairly. Outside his home, the world kept moving. Phones buzzed. Comments appeared. Opinions formed. Tom did not respond to any of it. He took the medal out of his pocket. He placed it back into its box. The lid closed with a soft sound. Tom rested his hand on it for a moment. He did not know what would happen next. He did not know how far the clip would travel. He did not know how many people would see it. But one thing was already clear. The order given in that courtroom did not stay there. It had followed him home. And it was only the beginning. Tom woke up before sunrise. His house was still dark and quiet. He sat at the kitchen table with a plain cup of tea. His phone lay face down beside the cup. He did not want to look at it again. He already knew something had changed. When he finally picked up the phone, the screen was full of missed calls. There were messages from Mark. There were messages from neighbors. There were messages from numbers he did not know. Tom stared at the list and felt his chest tighten. He had lived a private life for years. Now strangers were trying to pull him into a public storm. Mark called again, and Tom answered. Mark spoke fast and sounded upset. That clip is everywhere, Mark said. People are sharing it like crazy, Mark said. Some big pages posted it, Mark said. Tom listened without speaking for a moment. He did not ask for this, Mark, he said. I know, Mark said. But it is happening anyway, Mark said. Tom turned on the television again. A morning show was playing the clip. The host described it with dramatic words. The camera zoomed in on Tom's chest as if the medal was the entire story. Tom watched for 10 seconds and turned it off. He did not like how the moment looked on a screen. It felt smaller and louder at the same time. Across town, Lisa sat at her desk with her laptop open. Lisa was the woman who filmed the clip. She worked a normal office job and hated attention. She had recorded it without thinking, then posted it late at night. She believed people should know what happened. Now she was watching her post spread into places she never imagined. Her hands shook when she refreshed the page. The numbers kept climbing. Lisa's friend Nina called her and sounded nervous. Do you realize what you started? Nina asked. I did not start it, Lisa said. The judge started it, Lisa said. Nina went quiet and then sighed. Just be careful, Nina said. Lisa promised she would be careful. But she did not feel safe anymore. She felt like a door had opened and could not be closed. By noon, reporters found Tom's name. They found his old work record. They found the case number. They started calling people who knew him. A local reporter named Dan drove to Tom Street and parked near the curb. Dan was not rude, but he was hungry for a story. He believed the clip could lead to something bigger. He knocked on Tom's door and waited. Tom looked through the window and did not open the door. He recognized the look of someone who wanted a reaction. Tom had learned long ago that attention can twist the truth. Dan left a note with a phone number. Tom watched him walk away. He felt his stomach drop. He realized this was not a one-day problem. Later, Mark came over with groceries. Mark set the bags on the counter and looked at Tom closely. You okay? Mark asked. Tom nodded but did not look convinced. Mark leaned on the counter and lowered his voice. People are not just mad about the medal, Mark said. They are digging into the judge, Mark said. Tom raised his eyes. What do you mean? Tom asked. Mark showed him a few articles on his phone. One article described past complaints against the judge. Another mentioned former court staff speaking anonymously. A third claimed the judge had treated other veterans unfairly. Tom read the headlines and felt uneasy. He did not want revenge. He wanted his case to be handled fairly. He did not want the court to become a battleground. But he also could not stop what was happening. At the courthouse, the judge sat in his private office and watched the news silently. His face looked calm, but his jaw was tight. His assistant stood near the door holding a stack of printed emails. More calls are coming in, the assistant said. The judge did not answer right away. He clicked a pen slowly. He told himself this would blow over. He told himself rules were rules. But his confidence was slipping. He opened an email from the court administration. It was short and formal. It said the court had received concerns. It said an internal review may take place. It said he should submit a written explanation. The judge stared at the words and felt heat rise in his face. He believed people did not understand his authority. He believed respect for the court mattered more than feelings. He did not see that his own choices were now on trial. That evening, Tom visited a small diner on the edge of town. He chose a booth near the wall. He wanted a quiet meal and a quiet moment. The waitress recognized him from the news. She did not say much at first. She brought him water and gave him space. But when she returned, she spoke softly. "My dad served too," she said. "I saw the video," she said. "I am sorry you went through that," she said. Tom nodded and thanked her. Her kindness felt real and simple. It also made the situation feel heavier. Across the diner, a man at another table began talking loudly about the clip. He pointed at Tom without fully turning around. Tom kept his eyes on the menu. He did not want a scene. He did not want people to treat him like a symbol. He was just a person who had a life before the video. He wanted his life back. When Tom returned home, there was another message from Dan the reporter. Dan asked for a short interview. Dan said people were inspired by Tom. Dan said Tom's voice mattered. Tom read the message twice. Then he put the phone down. He sat in the living room and listened to the quiet. He thought about the metal in the box. He thought about the judge's voice in the courtroom. He thought about how one sentence had turned into a storm. He also thought about something else. If the judge could do that to him in public, what happened to others in private? Tom did not sleep much that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling. He felt trapped between silence and noise. He knew if he spoke, the story would grow. He knew if he stayed quiet, others would speak for him. Before sunrise, his phone buzzed again. This time the message was not from Mark. It was from an unknown number. The message contained only one line. "We need to talk about the judge." Tom stared at the screen until his eyes burned. He did not know who sent it. He did not know what they wanted. But he knew the next step was coming. And it was going to hit harder than the first. "If you want, I can write part 3 in the exact same style and length." Tom read the message again and again. He did not reply right away. He sat quietly and waited for the sun to rise. Morning light filled the room slowly. The house felt different now. It no longer felt like a safe place from the outside world. Later that morning, Mark arrived early. Tom showed him the message. Mark frowned and rubbed his chin. "Someone wants to talk," Mark said. "That could mean trouble or answers," Mark said. Tom nodded and felt the weight of the choice. He had never liked being in the middle of attention. But the truth had a way of pushing forward. Tom replied with a short message. "Who is this?" he wrote. The answer came fast. "My name is Alan," the message said. "I worked at the courthouse for years," the message said. "I saw things that were wrong," the message said. "I think you deserve to know the truth," the message said. They agreed to meet at a quiet public library. Tom arrived early and sat near the window. He kept his hands folded on the table. His heart beat faster than he expected. He was not afraid of Alan. He was afraid of what Alan might reveal. Alan arrived wearing a plain jacket and tired eyes. He looked older than his years. He sat across from Tom and took a deep breath. "Thank you for coming," Alan said. Tom nodded and waited. Alan spoke slowly and carefully. He said the judge had a pattern. He said service members were treated with doubt and coldness. He said the medal moment was not new behavior. It was just the first time it was seen by everyone. Alan explained how complaints were ignored. He explained how staff were warned to stay quiet. He explained how careers suffered when people spoke up. Tom listened without interrupting. His stomach felt heavy. He did not want to believe it. But the details felt real and specific. Alan placed a folder on the table. Inside were printed emails and notes. Some messages showed harsh language. Some showed clear bias. Tom felt his hands shake slightly as he read. "This is serious," Tom said. Alan nodded. "I know," Alan said. At the courthouse, things were unraveling quickly. Court leaders met behind closed doors. Phones rang non-stop. Emails filled inboxes. The judge was called into a private meeting. He walked in with confidence but left with tension in his shoulders. The review was no longer quiet. It became official and public. A statement was released confirming an investigation. News channels repeated it all day. The judge's name appeared under bold headlines. His past rulings were being examined one by one. The judge returned home that evening feeling exposed. He sat alone in his study. Awards lined the shelves. Photos showed smiling moments from years ago. He believed his authority protected him. Now that belief was fading. Meanwhile, Tom faced his own pressure. More messages arrived every hour. Some thanked him. Some asked him to speak. Some tried to push him into statements. Tom ignored most of them. He wanted to stay focused on truth, not noise. A lawyer contacted Tom and offered advice. He explained Tom's rights carefully. He warned that the situation could become intense. Tom appreciated the honesty. He agreed to move slowly and carefully. Lisa watched the news from her apartment. She felt both relief and fear. People praised her for sharing the video. Others blamed her for chaos. She questioned herself late at night. But deep down, she believed silence would have been worse. At work, co-workers whispered when she passed. Some smiled with support. Some avoided her eyes. Lisa kept her head down and did her job. She knew the truth had power but also cost. Days passed and tension grew. The review committee requested documents. Former employees came forward. Each story added weight. Each detail painted a clearer picture. Tom was asked to submit a written statement. He wrote carefully and honestly. He described the moment without emotion. He explained why the medal mattered to him. He avoided blame and focused on facts. When the statement was released, people reacted strongly. Many said it showed dignity. Many said it showed restraint. The contrast between Tom's words and the judge's actions became clear. The judge attempted to defend himself publicly. He gave a short interview. His tone sounded rigid. His words lacked warmth. Public opinion shifted quickly. Sponsors withdrew from events linked to him. Speaking invitations were cancelled. Support within the system weakened. The power he once held began to slip away. Tom watched all of this quietly. He did not celebrate. He did not smile. He felt sadness more than satisfaction. He believed accountability mattered. But he also believed consequences were heavy things. One evening, Tom sat alone and opened the medal box. He held the medal in his palm. He remembered promises made long ago. He promised himself again to stay grounded. The review committee announced their findings soon after. They confirmed bias and misuse of authority. They recommended serious action. The announcement shook the legal world. The judge received the news in silence. He sat still as the words were read. His career stood on the edge. Years of control ended in one decision. Tom received a message from Alan later that night. It simply said thank you. Tom replied with one word: truth. He did not know what the final outcome would be yet. But he knew something important had already happened. The truth had stepped into the light. And it could not be pushed back into the dark. The courthouse steps looked the same as always. The stone walls stood tall and silent. But inside, everything felt changed. Tom walked through the entrance with steady steps. He carried a thin folder and a calm face. He did not wear the medal this time. He kept it safe at home in its box. The review committee had finished their work. Their report had been shared with court leaders. The public already knew the summary. The words were simple but heavy. Bias. Misuse of authority. Unprofessional conduct. Tom did not feel excited. He felt drained. He had wanted fairness in his case. He never asked for a storm that touched an entire court. Still, he understood something. When one person holds power, small choices can hurt many people. Mark met him near the hallway. Mark spoke in a low voice. "It is happening today," Mark said. Tom nodded slowly. He could hear quiet voices behind doors. He could feel tension in the air. Lisa arrived outside with a small notebook in her bag. She was not a reporter. She did not want attention. But she wanted to see the ending with her own eyes. She stood near the back of the crowd and kept her head down. She recognized Tom from a distance. She hoped he was holding up. Alan arrived too, keeping space between himself and everyone else. He looked like a man who had carried a secret for too long. Now the secret was public, but the weight was still there. He watched the courthouse doors and waited. Inside, Tom sat in the second row. A new judge entered and took the seat at the front. The room stood and sat again. The new judge's voice was calm and clear. He spoke with respect, not force. Tom noticed that difference right away. The hearing began with routine words. The case was called. The lawyers spoke. Documents were reviewed. Questions were asked in an even tone. Tom answered carefully. He did not rush. He did not try to impress anyone. He simply told the truth. When the hearing ended, the new judge made a decision. Tom's claim was supported by the evidence. The ruling was clear. Tom had been treated unfairly at work. He would receive what the law allowed. The matter would be resolved properly. Tom sat still as the words landed. His shoulders dropped slightly. It was not joy. It was release. A pressure he carried for months finally eased. Outside, reporters waited, hoping for a strong reaction. They wanted a quote. They wanted tears or anger or celebration. Tom gave them none of it. He walked down the steps slowly and looked at the sky for a moment. The air felt sharp and clean. Dan, the reporter, stepped forward politely. "Tom, can you say something?" Dan asked. Tom paused and looked at him. He chose his words carefully. "I just wanted a fair hearing," Tom said. That is all Tom said. Then he kept walking. That simple sentence moved through the crowd. Some people nodded. Some looked surprised. Many expected a bigger statement. But Tom did not want revenge. He wanted closure. Across town, the former judge sat in his office with a sealed envelope in front of him. The court administration had asked him to resign. The letter was formal. It stated that trust in the court required action. It stated that his position could not continue. The judge read the letter twice. His face stayed stiff. He felt anger first. Then he felt fear. Then he felt something like disbelief. He had spent years building his image. Now a short clip had pulled the curtain away. He reached for his phone and stopped. There was nobody he could call who could fix it. He had already pushed people away for too long. He had used authority like a wall. Now the wall had cracks too deep to repair. He signed the resignation. His name looked small on the page. He placed the pen down and sat quietly. News broke within hours. The judge had resigned. Headlines moved fast. Commentators argued on television. Some called it justice. Some called it accountability. Some called it overdue. Tom did not watch any of it. He drove home in silence. He passed familiar streets. He noticed small things he had ignored for weeks. A kid riding a bicycle. A dog pulling on a leash. A couple carrying groceries. Normal life kept going. At home, Mark came by again. Mark looked at Tom and tried to read his face. "How do you feel?" Mark asked. Tom thought for a moment. Tired, Tom said. Relieved, Tom said. Mark nodded slowly. That makes sense, Mark said. That evening, Tom opened the metal box. He held the metal in his hand again. He did not feel like a hero. He did not feel like a symbol. He felt like a person who had carried memory quietly. He placed the metal back in its box and closed the lid. He sat back and let the quiet fill the room. For the first time in days, his phone stayed still. Lisa went home too. She sat at her desk and stared at her laptop. She thought about how close she came to deleting the clip that night. She thought about how easy it is to stay silent. She also thought about the cost of speaking. Then she whispered a small truth to herself. Some things should be seen, Lisa said. Alan walked through his front door and exhaled deeply. He had feared consequences for years. Now the consequences had happened, but not to him. He felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. He knew the system was not perfect. But he also knew change could happen when people stopped looking away. In the days that followed, new court guidelines were discussed. Training was announced for staff and judges. Rules about respectful conduct were emphasized. These changes were not loud. They did not feel dramatic. But they mattered. Tom returned to a quiet routine. He cleaned his small yard. He met Mark for coffee. He visited a local community center and helped organize a job workshop. He did not talk about the case unless someone asked. When people did ask, he kept it simple. Respect matters, Tom would say. Fairness matters, Tom would say. One afternoon, Tom received a letter in the mail. There was no return name. Inside was a short note. It said, "You reminded me to stand up for myself." It said, "Thank you." Tom read the note twice. He placed it in a drawer with the metal box nearby. He realized something then. The judge's career had fallen because the world finally saw what was hidden. But Tom's life was not about that fall. His life was about what he did after. He stood by his window that night and looked out at the quiet street. He did not feel like he won a battle. He felt like he survived a storm with his dignity intact. And in the stillness, Tom understood the final truth. A medal can be removed from a jacket. But respect cannot be removed from a person who refuses to lose it.